So the modular brief, once you're in, is going to have our entire schedule of our process. So we're going to start with defining a set of modular forms and build the letters using only that system. There's a link to Pinterest. So if you want to look at more examples, there's a whole Pinterest board of modular fonts for inspiration. There are a couple readings embedded in here that if you want to have a deeper look at building a modular elements, that you can read, both Nuge and Italian modular font. It's a design from the 20s. And try all uppercase. So if you're going to do uppercase, once we get the modulars built, the first letters we're going to work in is these 7 letters: H, E, N, A, O, D, and G. And if we're doing lowercase, it's the same letters, just in lowercase. But the rule is that all letters must be constructed and based on some set of modular forms. So what I've found is that the first step is going to be building our modular forms that are going to have the key points we brought up in our keynote. If we go back to keynote, the modulars are going to need a stem, a bowl, a crossbar, and stroke. And then we need to think of the shapes, specifically the ones we need if it's a capital or a lowercase. And those shapes are listed in the chart. And then we want to make sure we keep the shapes proportional in one set. You want to make sure no matter what, you do not scale or distort any of the components. You can add more components if necessary, but do not overlap the elements or use a white shape knocked out of black forms. All the letters in a typeface are distinct from each other, yet they share many of the same attributes. So we're going to be doing this building on specific letter forms at specific stages of this process. So the first part that we're going to be working on this week is doing the module parts and then building these first 7 letters. We're going to be focusing on just these first 7 letters. And we're going to be doing 3 sets of modular form ideas. So each set has a part that you're going to create 7 letters. So we're going to make sure that when you're thinking of your parts, I think it's helpful to look at these 7 letters, that you have to make sure that the parts you're creating are going to work creating these 7 letters. So examples are right here. I have 2 examples. This is one from a student. This is their grid sketches. And this student did a lot more than we're doing. These are variations of their letters once they chose some of their sketches. And then their final presentation. And then they're going into lots of the detail. I don't know why it kicks me all the way out every time I do that. And then there's another one here. I'm not going to do it because it just keeps taking me out. So our goal is going to be to create 3 modular sets that are completely different from each other. So a couple people at the end, right before we went to break, said, hey, I really like my letter forms that I created for my personal brand. Could I turn that into one of these modular projects if I can see that they would work? And I said, absolutely. That can be one of your modular form ideas, but you still are going to have 2 more. So you're going to have 3 ultimate modular form ideas that you're going to create these 7 letters for. And so you're going to create the modular parts, and we're going to work on that in class today. So we should be able to get pretty far today. And then we're going to, from our modules, create 7 letters for each set. So you'll have 3 sets of 7 letters each. And so it's 7 letters times 3, so that's 21. So don't wait to start. We're going to really work on this, and these are all still in a sketching form. remember when you're working on this, you're not going to draw all the letter H and then all the letter E. You're going to work in the sets. So it's like one set of module parts, and then you're going to build the 7 letters for that modular part. Then you're going to do your next module parts and then create your 7 letters off that second one. So they're going to be 3 distinctly different ideas. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started. The thing I want you to think about when you're working with those 3 different sets is work in different sizes, work in different proportions. Have fun, explore. This is an experimental process. It's playful. Think of things that are like, I liked that in some of the 2 examples I shared with you in the slideshow was, one was called Pulp, and it was based on like the little pulp in the lemon slice, so they got inspired by the idea of a slice of lemon and was like, okay, I want to know if I can make it using like this pulp, make it look like the pulp inside a lemon. So if you have something that you can think of that you're like, oh, I want to make it inspired by, definitely do that. Ugly is awesome. Make sure it can be fun. It can be funky. This is about having fun and seeing how experimental you can be. So the only thing you can't do is hand letter. You're not hand lettering. These have to be constructed using the grid. Remember, our key shapes are a circle, a triangle, and a square. So we are working with grid paper specifically to keep us thinking about geometric shapes. And we're going to be focusing on geometric shapes and combining and building from geometric shapes. Okay? All right, so next step, and we're going to work together in a class, is we're going to have I'm going to open up my grid paper. We're going to get our grid paper out, our pencils out, and I'm going to put up on the screen for you all the Modular toolkit. So what I recommend you do on your grid paper is draw a cap height line, an X height line, or the mean line, the baseline, and a descender line. Go ahead and draw your scaffolding on your grid paper. You can adjust how much space you want. It's really up to you. But having those lines, so as you're starting to draw in your shapes, you're drawing them in thinking about the height of the stem, the height of the ascender, the height of the descender, the height of each part, okay, that you're going to be cutting apart and then using in different ways. All right, so I'm going to pause here with my recording, and I think if there's any more questions, we'll answer them, but the next step is go ahead and make your first set of modules. Remember, we're doing 3 different sets, completely different design ideas, and then we are going to build our 7 letters out of those module sets, and that's what we're going to be looking at next week. So we'll have 3 completely different sets of 7 letters and the modules next week.